Okay, so now we've understood who the audience are and we've understood the band image that has been constructed, contrived and created by Psycho, the record label that owns One Direction. We know what they're looking to present to an audience to create audience appeal, and we've got the notes at the bottom of the slide just here. They want their target audience of young girls to think that One Direction are safe, wholesome, youthful, upbeat, relatable, identifiable. So how do they do that? Well, there's so many ways of promoting a new band, and a record company like Psycho have a huge amount of money, resources and connections at their disposal. They've got lots of power to promote and generate success for a new band. However, for our particular unit of music industry, we're going to specifically focus on the use of music videos as a promotional tool. Now, a music video is a way to set out a band's image really clearly, to offer a narrative around a band, to kind of set them up within the story that you want to tell about them, and to create this contrived world that you want to appeal to the audience. So I'm going to take you back through a couple of the videos that you watched last lesson and break them down for you so you can see how this all connects together. How did they create this particular audience appeal? Well, first shot of the music video, What Makes You Beautiful, the first single released by One Direction after their third place in X Factor, so a few months after. This is their first single, and it opens with a shot of a kind of paradise location, established this sense of a kind of a dreamlike quality. This is the band having achieved these like wonderful dreams. They're having this kind of fantasy life where they're playing on the beach and they're having fun, and this shot kind of sets that up, this fantasy location. But it's also clever because it chooses a location that's accessible to the audience. So being on a beach is a kind of identifiable normal reality for most people who will be able to go and spend the day at the beach with friends and family. And so they're both achieving this kind of successful dream fantasy location, but they're also doing it in an achievable, relatable way. You've then got all the way through the video, you've got these close to mid shots of each member of the band. They're quite careful to introduce each band member on their own as well as presenting them as a group, establishing those individual kind of obsessive fan crushes that they then capitalize on throughout the rest of their production. So they're showing you each individual boy so you can kind of choose a favourite, and they're creating the connections with each one by doing that. So we have that repeated shot just like this, complete eye level, so each of the boys are looking down the camera right at the audience and creating that connection, that pseudo relationship. The camera is close to them. We have that kind of zoomed in look so we can really get a sense of who they are, trying to simulate friendship, closeness, relatability. You can see in the styling of Liam here, he's supposed to be attractive, I think. Sort of, he looks like a kind of stereotypical, conventional young man, and he's got his sort of hair done, etc. But he's still dressed very casually. So there isn't that sense of aspiration in the same way. He is supposed to be good looking, but accessible. So you could legitimately feel like you could create that relationship with him, that you can approach him in that way. And that's quite clever, to not set them up as these status symbols that are out of reach, but to create the audience appeal and the kind of crush, and make it feel like that's something that could genuinely happen. So I think that's what's done with those shot types there. You've also got a range of group shots. So I think they really use the first video to establish the brotherhood between the boys. I think their closeness, their friendship is a big part of their branding. So we talked about them being kind of wholesome, identifiable, excitable, and that's kind of how they do it, right? So they create this, this friendship group that you would aspire to. They're really close, they love each other, there's lots of like silly banter, and by emphasizing the brotherhood and the connections and the friendship and the love there, which is contrived because they've literally only known each other for a few months, they're kind of inviting us into that. So we're part of that group, we're part of that camaraderie, we're part of that closeness, and it again increases that sense of connection. There is, like in this shot, a few examples of where they've used things like lighting and angles to increase their status. So unlike with the previous one here where we're on the same level, there's a few low angle shots which increase the prestige of the band. They make them feel above us, and that creates that aspirational quality. You've also got the kind of clever use of lighting here with the sparkler, which sparkles above them. So that use of the mise-en-scene there, highlighting their success, the fact that they are stars or stars on the rise. They're normal boys. Look, they've just got sort of normal shirts and t-shirts. They're just hanging out. They're quite casual, but they are stars on the rise. That's kind of metaphorically implied as well. And then finally, we have the use of the female characters. So it's not just the boys, there's a group of girls that come and join them, they party on the beach, they've got sparklers, they're dancing around. Very wholesome, there's nothing overly sexualized, there's nothing that would create any kind of controversy. It's a very sort of sweet, playful use of this narrative. But clearly for the teenage girl watching this, they are supposed to want to be these girls and feel like they could be, again, feel like that would be achievable for them to hang out with the boys because they're just normal boys. So yeah, it's completely contrived, emphasizing their looks and their talent, but really focusing on them being sort of silly, funny, friendly and accessible to their audience, young, fun and relatable. Now, the second video that I got you to watch was very different, and this is Night Changers. So this is 4 years later, and it's 4 years of the boys being massively in the spotlight, huge success, global domination. They released 5 albums in 5 years, so they're absolutely churning out music and material all of the time. So that's not normal to produce that much. And I think over that period, they change in a really interesting way whilst maintaining and building on their success. So how do they do that? Well, I think it's quite clever. On the one hand, they shift image quite starkly. So we've got this image here. This is Zayn, and he is he's wearing a suit. He's got his hair kind of done in a very stylish and much more mature way. And you can see in the background, he's in a very high-class restaurant. We've got beautiful flowers, chandeliers, like opulent building. This is the first kind of few shots of the video. Compared to this relatable beachside silly setting, we've completely shifted gears here. Now we're somewhere very, very clearly aspirational. You'd have to have money, you'd have to be someone of status or power or high class to go somewhere like this. So we've got that shift there. We've also got the fact that they've used the low angle right from the beginning. So we're following Zayn, but we're below him. So we're looking up and saying kind of, oh wow, look at what he's got, look at what he's achieved. A similar shot there, we've got Louis, and he's got this, again, much more mature outfit. So this is only 4 years previous to this, but look at the way that the styling has changed. They look completely different. Long trench coat, he's driving, so again that shows his maturation. Got this very classic car, that would be very expensive. So again, it's about status, aspiration. And similarly to in the previous video where we've got the connection, there's this connection is built up. So although the settings have changed, the costumes have changed, the sense of connection is still there. In every single shot of the video, the boys are looking into the camera as if the camera is us. We are very much being placed in a point of view of their romantic partner, and this connection as if we're on a date. That's what's happening. The camera is taking you on a date with all 5 boys. And we can see here Louis is kind of gesturing to us, again, beckoning in. That sense of connection between audience and band is definitely exaggerated here again. However, we've still got a sense of the fun, the silliness, the kind of childish nature that they had previously. So although they've matured in style and in status, they haven't lost their initial appeal. So we've got Liam in a sort of fairground location. Again, that's much more similar to the beach location at the beginning. They haven't totally moved on. And in this particular example with Niall, we see the shift in the narrative. It starts off with all these boys doing amazing things in high-class restaurants and lovely drives, and then everything goes wrong. So Liam pukes in his hat, Niall sets himself on fire, Louis gets stopped by the police. It's silly, it's caricature, they're mocking themselves, they're making fun of themselves, and they're reminding the audience that although they're very famous, they haven't lost touch with their roots or their reality or their sense of humour. So they're creating that connection. We're not perfect, we might look more attractive, we might have more money, but we're not any better than you are. And I think that's very, very clever. That's how you hold on to your audience. You look different, you've matured, so you keep your older audience because you're still a person they could see themselves in a relationship with, have a crush on, but you maintain your younger audience by keeping that kind of silliness and that sense of fun.